Hi, I'm Amy. I'm one of the owners of North Shore College Consulting. And every February, we work with families navigating deferrals and waiting for admissions decisions. If your student was deferred from a college, I want to start by saying this very clearly. You're not alone. This moment is actually far more common than it feels. Every February, we talk with families who are confused, they're frustrated, and honestly, they're just unsettled. A deferral isn't a yes, it isn't a no, and it leaves you sitting in uncertainty when at this point you are hoping to get some clarity in the process. So today I want to slow this all down. I'm going to explain exactly what a deferral means, what really helps at this stage, what to avoid, and how to think clearly about letters of continued interest, including how to write one if it makes sense. The goal here is not to do more, it's to understand what matters and what doesn't. When a student is deferred, it simply means the college isn't ready to make a final decision yet. That's it. It does not mean that the application was weak. It does not mean that the student did something wrong or made a mistake on the application. And it does not mean that admissions is off the table. In most cases, it means that the admissions committee actually saw strengths in the application, but wants to compare it to the larger pool in regular decision round. Colleges defer students for lots of reasons: class balance, institutional priorities, how competitive the early pool was, timing. Many of those factors have nothing to do with an individual student. That's why this distinction matters. A deferral is procedural, it is not personal. The most important thing to do after a deferral is actually to pause. As a parent, I know the instinct is to act quickly, to write an email, to send something, to make sure that the college still knows that you care. But before doing anything, the first step is to carefully read what the college is asking you to do after being deferred. Some schools welcome updates, but some explicitly say they don't want them. Some track demonstrated interest, others don't. There's no universal rule. So at this stage, the things that tend to matter the most is keeping your grades up and focusing on your classes, continuing your meaningful involvement in your activities, and being thoughtful. Don't be reactive about reaching out and communicating. Not every student needs to send something, and sometimes sending the wrong thing can hurt more than it helps. There are a few patterns that we see every single year for the past 17 years, and they almost always come from anxiety, not bad judgment. One is parent written communication or phone calls to admissions. Admissions offices expect to hear from the students, not the parent. When messages come from parents, even with good intentions, it sends the wrong signal. Another is over communicating, multiple emails, repeated check ins, reaching out without a clear purpose. We also see families send updates that don't actually add any value, relisting the students' activities that were already on the application, or sharing very minor changes that don't meaningfully shift the student's profile. And finally, treating every college the same. Each school has its own policies and its own priorities. What helps at one school may be unnecessary or even unwelcome at another school. For colleges that track demonstrated interest, this can actually matter more after a deferral. But demonstrated interest is not about doing more, it's about doing what's appropriate. Thoughtful demonstrated interest might look like attending an information session for deferred students, visiting campus when feasible, even virtually, engaging with the admissions programming that the college is offering. What usually doesn't help are generic emails or repeated outreach just to stay visible. If interest is shown, it should be student led, aligned with the college's guidelines, and genuinely reflective of interest, not anxiety. A letter of continued interest, also called a LOCI, is a formal student written letter that confirms the college remains a top choice. A strong LOCI does three things. It clearly demonstrates and shares continued interest. It shares meaningful updates and it reinforces fit in a thoughtful, specific way. February is usually a good time to send a loci because students have had time to grow since submitting their application. That said, not every college wants a loci, and not every student needs to send one. A loci only helps when the college allows it, the student has something real and valuable to share, and the letter is written with intention. A strong loci is concise, typically no more than a page or so. It should sound professional, clear, grounded. Most effective locais include a brief opening confirming the student's continued interest in the college, 1 to 3 meaningful updates, and a short section explaining why the school remains a strong fit using specifics. When we talk about meaningful updates, we don't mean small changes or things are already listed on the application. A meaningful update is something that adds new information or shows clear progress since the application was submitted. That might be a strong academic trend, an improvement in grades, a new leadership role, a completed research project, a measurable contribution to an activity or an organization. What matters is that the update shows growth, impact, or deeper commitment, not just continued participation. If the update doesn't change how the application looks today, it's usually better not to include it. This is what you should avoid: emotional appeals, repeating the personal statement, and trying to oversell yourself. The goal isn't to convince the college to take a chance on you, it's to show maturity, clarity, and alignment with the college's purpose and mission. I want to leave you with this: a deferral is not a verdict on a student's potential. It's a moment that calls for patience, even though that's hard, and perspective. Some students are admitted after a deferral, but others aren't. And they still end up at wonderful colleges where they thrive and couldn't be happier. What matters most right now is responding thoughtfully, keeping your options open, and continuing to move forward with confidence. If you're navigating a deferral right now, clarity is possible and you don't have to rush.